Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to be talking about our feelings about the Lights Out modifier, because it's not a game mode, apparently. It's definitely totally a game mode, and they just named it a modifier, so you definitely couldn't get mad at them for calling their game mode kind of underwhelming, because it's not technically a game mode, it's a modifier TM. Smile, even though it's got its own mode and its own queue. A modifier would be something that you apply to your main game mode to mix up the gameplay. It wouldn't have its own queue. It having its own queue makes it its own mode that you have to queue into. So by definition, it's actually not a modifier. It is actually a game mode. So it's just kind of like, doesn't really make a lot of sense, like literally at all. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, that's a long tangent. Let's talk about how I feel about it. I played it both on Killer and Survivor today to give you the full expanse of how I feel about it. And the TLDR, to put it flatly, up front, since you're probably, satiating to figure out like some sort of verdict on it, it is just all right. And I do mean that it is not bad and it is not good. It's kind of in this middling zone. I'm like, it's okay. It's all right. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So let's go ahead and talk about it from each side's perspective. So the whole thing that I've noticed with this is like the idea is that like this new game mode is supposed to be like fun, because like mostly the other game mode, the main game mode, the general game mode that you've played forever, Dead by Daylight, has kind of been overcome with sweat and disgustingness, people trying way too hard. So the idea is that you would be able to come to this mode and just be able to vibe, chill, and have fun. So fun is kind of the name of the game. And there's kind of a lot of things that got in the way of the fun. On the Killer side of things, it mostly boils down to kind of just like wandering around and being confused a lot. Like the idea that you could potentially not like be able to find somebody is, it seems like on the surface kind of a challenge, but in reality it's kind of you just kind of like walking around and staring around like a doofus. You just feel dumb. You're like, I don't know how else to put that. You just kind of feel dumb and stupid. We're just kind of like wandering around, unsure of where anybody or anything is. Like you go check gens, but somebody could just be immersing around a corner and you'd have no idea, and you just kind of feel like you're wandering around aimlessly a lot. So you end up kind of like gravitating more towards killers like Doctor, like Legion, like Xenomorph with the footstep thing in the tunnels. They kind of give you a built-in information to your kit, because, well, trying to do that naturally doesn't really work in the Lights Out mode. However, once you start playing those characters like Legion, like Doctor, even like Myers and Ghostface, you can still like stalk people and kind of have a sense of where they are. And once you start playing those characters that kind of have some sort of info or tracking ability in their base kit, the mode's pretty all right. Mode's pretty fine. Once you actually have some sort of idea vaguely where people are, it's still kind of hard to track. It's still kind of hard to find people. Chasing is really interesting, because chasing is now not done by scratch marks and like mind games, but it's by following people's blood pools. So obviously if Bloodhound was in this mode, there's no perks. You're not allowed to bring perks, but Bloodhound in this mode, it would be actually a meta perk, because blood pools are the main way you're going to be chasing. It was kind of funny. There was one match I was playing Doctor on Larry's, and it was like literally chasing this gate, and I was just chasing with my head like face down. I was just like looking straight down the whole time. It's just like, it must have been very funny to watch from the survivor's perspective, me just looking straight down the entire chase. It was pretty funny. I think the unfortunate thing, and this is kind of something that like bridges itself between both sides, is that because the whole point of this mode is a lack of info, a lack of understanding of where people are, you do kind of end up being forced to just camp and tunnel a lot, because you don't know where anybody else is. And that is something that has always been a reason why a lot of killers do end up like camping or tunneling in Dead by Daylight in the normal mode, is because they just don't have good macro sense and they don't know generally where survivors are. So instead of like being like, oh well, it would be smart to be doing this gen on the other side of the map, or having an info perk tell them, they don't know where people are, so they just kind of like, okay, well, I'll just go where the survivors are, which happens to be right back at the hook. So there is, if you don't like that, if you're not a fan of proxy camping, if you're not a fan of tunneling, this game mode will definitely not be good for you on either side, because you can't really necessarily blame them. Like I said, you really can't necessarily blame them, because like if you don't know where anybody is, and that's the whole point of the mode, what are you supposed to do? Because you don't want to be doing that dumb thing. We're just wandering around like a lost puppy. You're gonna go back to where the survivors are. So a lot of proxy camping, a lot of tunneling, and it is kind of a symptom of the game mode itself. And I think Killer has the upper hand over Survivor in this mode, because like I said, there's no perks, no items. You can get items, we have to loot them from chests inside the actual mode. You can't bring them in. Killer has the better time with this because, you know, obviously killers, just as a role, they have different powers. So match to match to match, they can switch things up. A match like as Legion plays very, very different to a match played on Hillbilly versus a match played on Nurse versus a match played on Artist, etc., etc. I can switch up the way that the mode feels just by picking a different character and watching how their different powers interact with the game mode. Survivor, that's not really the case, and Survivor got stale very, very quickly, because there really wasn't any way to switch up my playstyle or switch up what I was doing, because essentially everything about Survivor is taken away from you. Essentially, you're playing one specific character that can only do one specific thing. You're just a skin. And unlike with normal Survivor in the normal mode, you can't put on perks to do something special. You can't bring on items to do something special or add-ons to do something special. You are literally just a one character and a one trick pony, and that got boring extremely quickly. And that's not even the worst part about the Survivor aspect, because I think that you're probably seeing on DBD social media that a lot of people, especially the survivors, more so, are complaining about the lights out mode and saying that it is very killer sided and that it is very aggressively anti-Survivor and it's not fun on Survivor at all. I think those people are like exaggerating a lot. I think I played Survivor on this for a bit, and I had fun in like most of my matches. And there was some level of fun to this because, like, without the Survivor HUD, it was kind of like old DBD a little bit. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of like old DBD a little. If you guys played before the Survivor HUD was actually in the game, you kind of had no idea what your randoms were doing or what they were up to, so you just kind of had to like pray they were doing the right thing. And that uncertainty kind of added a level of like kind of like fun stress to the game, of kind of like that fun anticipation and nervousness of not knowing what's going on and not having all that information. So that aspect, there were some fun aspects to that. It was kind of nice. It's kind of nostalgic in a lot of ways. But the problem is that like a lot of like killers interact with the Nightfall, I literally called it the Nightfall, the lights out mode in a kind of a way that kind of defeats the purpose. So the point of the lights out mode is that like we're all at a disadvantage because we all can't see, because info is such an important part of Dead by Daylight. But reality, what happens is people just end up picking characters like Plague or Legion and kind of just going, well, okay, everything's fine now. And basically playing it the exact same way that they would in the normal mode. But now I, as the survivor, I'm at a disadvantage, but they're fine. So it kind of creates a kind of an ugly situation. The match that actually got me to quit, because I didn't do a full stream of the lights out mode. I actually quit, and the last match I quit on was a Plague that was slugging for the 4K, you know, playing like behavior, had their family hostage, like that's the super sweaty. If you guys don't know, this is a fun fact about me and my Dead by Daylight history. I have actually never had a match against a Plague that was not sweaty. I know that's kind of like, the Plague community is fairly sweaty, but like I know that's kind of a funny stat, because like what are the chances that I've literally never had a chill match against a Plague? I don't know, but yeah, I stopped because like against Plague, you know, the whole thing is like, okay, well, you can't see scratch marks. Don't worry, when they're sick, they cough really loudly, so I can track you that way. Gen regression is supposed to be worse, but I can just puke on gens and force people off gens. So I have kind of a macro gen control thing. Also with the Nightfall, keep calling it Nightfall. The lights out with the darkness, I can literally use my red puke and vomit on people from outside the darkness, from where I literally can't freaking see you. So you can be hit off screen from out of nowhere by the red vomit, and it's just like Plague just kind of like doesn't care about the lights out mode. So if you want just like easy matches, you just want to stomp people and make them feel bad, just play Plague in the lights out mode. It's just easy peasy. Like they're at a disadvantage and you're just not for like no reason. I think another thing that I want to point out is like, while it was not as bad as like Dredge's Nightfall for me, this did make me kind of like give me a headache after a while, because I've criticized Dredge's Nightfall before for it making me like squint and like having to like squint my eyes through the whole match as long as the Nightfall is up throughout the entire duration of Nightfall, and that does give me a headache. And while that didn't happen for like a few hours, after about the third hour of playing lights out, I did start getting that feeling of just having a very, very intense and uncomfortable headache because I was going through that, essentially that Nightfall feeling, except not as bad, like all the time, every match after match after match after match. I don't know, I think at the end of the day, it's still fine in the sense that it switches up the gameplay, right? Because like non-meta killers are suddenly way more meta, like Myers, Ghostface, Plague, Legion, Doctor, characters that like you don't really see played a lot at like a higher level. That's like, You see them way more in this mode, so that's cool. The way you play Survivor is generally different because like usually you heal under hook because it's just faster, but now you want to space out the hook because obviously space out and heal away from the hook because, well, you know, the killer knows you're there and that's the only place they know survivors are confirmed, so they're probably going to come straight back to that hook, so you don't want to heal under hook. There's a lot of little different gameplay changes to how you play the lights out mode that makes it different, which is kind of the point. But I really don't see myself playing this as a main mode or even playing this much outside of the fact that now that I have the rift done for it, the special rift that came out with it. It can be nice every once in a while, like if my games are like really sweaty on the main mode, I can just switch over and play this like one or two games and then go right back. But there's not enough to this. It's very bare bones, and there's a lot of like weird stuff about it that just feels like they could have done so much more, and they kind of just didn't, which is why I was kind of ribbing him at the beginning, calling it, well, it's a modifier, it's not a full game mode. Like, yeah, it's a full game mode. You didn't really do a lot with it. Okay, let's just call a spade here. Like you released this game mode undercooked, and you called it a modifier to kind of like shield that. Yeah, just like, you know, with a lot of things in the Dead by Daylight community, the people that are being aggressively negative about it and saying it's like the worst thing ever, I don't know why Behavior did this, they're overreacting. Behavior, why did you release a new game mode when my parents divorced? You need to be working on a patch for my parents' marriage. Like, just blaming Behavior for everything, and they could do no right, you know? Like, those people, they're overreacting, but also people that are toxic positive, like, bro, this is like actually a really fun game mode and the most refreshing thing that's happened in Dead by Daylight in years, and oh my gosh, if we just give them all the praise and pats on the back, we're gonna have 50 million game modes, we're gonna have 2v8, 4v8, 3 million to 1, like, we're gonna have every game mode in the world. Those people are also wrong. Those people are also just like completely on copium, completely huffing up the game, and none of these are true. The truth is somewhere in the middle. It's all right, but it's just all right. It's okay. It's fine for a little bit, but that's all it is. It's like, you get over it fairly quickly. As for that whole conversation, I do want to say briefly that we should not be pigeonholed into pretending or force liking something so Behavior won't get scared. Like, there are a company that has a PR team that it's their job, not ours. It's their job, not ours, to keep their, finger to the pulse of the Dead by Daylight community and figure out what would be good to have in a game mode, what would not be good to have in a game mode, what kind of game modes would we like to have in the future. That is up for them to figure out. It is not upon the community. It is not upon the community. It's not our burden to play nice and coddle the Behavior devs for Dead by Daylight so they won't, get scared and not make more game modes. I think that take in the DBD community is just like really like airing on that toxic positivity side. It was like, yeah, you should pat him on the back because if you don't, we're not getting new game modes. It's like, no, everybody who works at Behavior Interactive are grown-ass adults. And if you're at this point where like you feel like you have to coddle them to get them to do what is best for their business, like, you're delusional. Like, this isn't like your kid or your friend. This isn't like your buddy. This is a company that it's their job to make something impressive to impress us, so we will continue to buy things and buy DLC and do all that to support their company. It's their job to impress us, not the other way around. He's not my buddy. He's not my pal. That's Behavior Interactive. That is a company, and I am a consumer. That is the relationship. I don't know if it's like just like a thing with like content creators that they think that there's I guess with the Fog Whisper program, like they're trying to like, kiss ass, so they're like in a good zone to be like looked on upon fondly by Behavior Interactive. I don't know what the deal is. Like I don't care. I'm just like, hey, if Behavior do good, Behavior do good. But if Behavior do bad, Behavior do bad. It just gotta whatever, I'll call it how it is. If you deserve praise, you'll get praise. If you deserve to get, criticized, you'll get criticized. Doesn't matter to me. Yeah, overall, for the most part, my time mode is a fine time. You're probably not going to enjoy it for like more than an hour, but it's fine. Pretty all right. If you need a small break from normal DBD matches, it's there for you. But on its own, it doesn't have enough. Like, it doesn't have enough to it to really last very long, which I guess I'm glad that it's temporary. It only lasts until Valentine's Day. But I do wish that they still would have added some custom game functionality to this so we could go back and do this whenever we want. Hopefully that is coming down the pipeline. because that would be nice to take a break from the game every once in a while. Yeah, what do you think about the lights out mode? Let me know down in the comments below, because it's definitely a mode and not a modifier. How do you feel about the mode? But other than that, that's going to be it for today's video, friends. But I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I do not see you tomorrow, I will see you when I see you. Bye-bye.